Hello, and welcome back. Today, you will listen to the powerful story of Cleopatra, one of the most famous queens in history. This story is created for English speaking practice, English listening practice, and vocabulary learning. It is told in simple and clear English, so learners can understand the story easily. This is a historical story. It talks about power, leadership, ambition, love, difficult choices, and the end of ancient Egypt. But this story is not made to shock you. It is not made to show violence. It is made to help you learn English through history. As you listen, try to follow the meaning. Do not worry if you do not understand every word. Listen again. Repeat the sentences. Write down useful vocabulary. Now, let us begin. This is the story of Cleopatra, the last great queen of ancient Egypt. The city of Alexandria. Long ago, in the ancient city of Alexandria, a young girl grew up inside a royal palace. Her name was Cleopatra. Alexandria was one of the most beautiful and important cities in the ancient world. It stood near the Blue Sea. Ships came from many countries. Traders brought food, clothes, books, gold, spices, and stories from faraway lands. The city was full of noise and life. In the morning, people walked through busy markets. Sailors shouted near the harbor. Teachers spoke to students. Priests walked towards temples. Workers carried goods through the streets. Alexandria was also a city of learning. It had great libraries, schools, writers, scientists, and thinkers. People came there not only to buy and sell things, but also to learn. Cleopatra grew up in this world. She was not an ordinary child. She was a princess. But being a princess did not mean her life was easy. The palace was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. Inside the palace, people smiled, but not every smile was honest. Some people wanted power. Some people wanted money. Some people wanted control. Cleopatra learned this very early. She watched the adults around her. She listened carefully when ministers spoke. She noticed when people were afraid. She noticed when people were pretending. Even as a young girl, Cleopatra understood something important. A crown could make someone look powerful, but knowledge made someone truly powerful. So Cleopatra studied. She studied languages. She studied politics. She studied history. She studied the traditions of Egypt. She studied how leaders spoke, how they made decisions, and how they controlled difficult situations. She was curious. She asked questions. She wanted to understand the world. Many rulers before her did not try to understand the ordinary people of Egypt. They lived in palaces and stayed far away from the people. But Cleopatra was different. She wanted to know her land. She wanted to understand Egyptian culture. She wanted to speak to her people. She did not want to be only a royal princess. She wanted to become a real leader. Sometimes, Cleopatra stood near a palace window and looked at the city below. She saw the sea. She saw the ships. She saw the people. And deep inside her heart, she felt a strong dream. One day, she wanted to protect Egypt. One day, she wanted to become a queen who would be remembered. But she did not know how difficult her journey would be. A young queen in a dangerous palace. When Cleopatra was still young, her father died. Suddenly, everything changed. The palace became quiet. Servants whispered in the corridors. Ministers met in secret rooms. Soldiers stood near the gates. Everyone asked the same question. Who would rule Egypt now? Cleopatra became queen when she was about 18 years old. But she did not rule alone. According to royal tradition, she had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He was only a boy. Cleopatra was intelligent, confident, and educated. Her brother was young, and powerful men around him wanted to control him. These men did not want Cleopatra to become too strong. They thought she was too young. They thought a woman should not have too much power. They thought they could push her away. But Cleopatra was not weak. She began to rule with energy. She spoke to officials. She studied problems in the kingdom. She listened to reports. She tried to make Egypt stronger. She knew that Egypt was rich, but also in danger. Rome was becoming more powerful. Egyptian politics were unstable. The people needed food. The government needed money. The royal family was divided. Cleopatra understood that leadership was not about sitting on a golden chair. Leadership was work. Leadership was responsibility. Leadership was making difficult decisions when other people were afraid. But the men around her brother became angry. They wanted Cleopatra out of power. Slowly, they worked against her. Some officials stopped listening to her. Some soldiers stopped obeying her. Some messages did not reach her. Some people who once smiled at her now looked away. Cleopatra began to feel the danger. The palace was her home, but it no longer felt safe. One evening, a loyal servant came to her quietly. "My queen," he said, "you must be careful. Your enemies are planning against you." Cleopatra looked at him. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she asked, "Is it time for me to leave?" The servant lowered his head. "Yes, my queen. If you stay, you may lose everything." Cleopatra looked around her room. The lamps were burning softly. The walls were decorated with royal colors. Outside, the night was quiet. She was queen of Egypt, but she could not stay safely in her own palace. Her heart was heavy. But she did not cry in front of the servant. She stood tall and said, "I will leave. But I will return." That night, Cleopatra escaped from Alexandria. She left the palace. She left the throne. She left the city she loved. But she did not leave her dream. She traveled away from Egypt and began to gather support. Many people would have given up. But Cleopatra did not give up. She told herself, "This is not the end. This is only the beginning of my fight." Cleopatra's first great lesson. While Cleopatra was away from Egypt, she learned her first great lesson as a leader. She learned that power can disappear quickly. One day, people call you queen. The next day, you are outside the palace with no throne. One day, people bow before you. The next day, they close the doors. This painful experience changed Cleopatra. She became stronger. She became more careful. She understood that a ruler must not depend only on family, tradition, or titles. A ruler must have intelligence. A ruler must have allies. A ruler must understand timing. Cleopatra began to plan her return. She spoke to soldiers. She spoke to supporters. She listened to news from Egypt. She tried to understand who was loyal and who was not. She knew that anger alone would not bring back her throne. She needed strategy. Strategy means a careful plan. Cleopatra was not only emotional. She was strategic. She waited for the right moment. And soon, that moment came. At the same time, Rome was going through its own problems. Rome was powerful, but it was also divided. Roman leaders were fighting for control. One of the most important Roman leaders was Julius Caesar. Caesar was a famous general. He had power, soldiers, experience, and confidence. Cleopatra knew that Caesar could change her future. If Caesar supported her, she could return to the throne. But meeting Caesar would not be easy. Her enemies controlled Alexandria. If she entered the city openly, she could be stopped. So Cleopatra made a bold plan. She decided to enter secretly. According to a famous ancient story, Cleopatra came to Caesar hidden inside a rolled cloth or carpet. When the cloth was opened, Cleopatra appeared before Caesar. Imagine the scene. Caesar expected a political discussion. But suddenly, a young queen stood in front of him. She was brave. She was calm. She was intelligent. She did not speak like a helpless person. She spoke like a ruler. She explained her situation. She explained her right to rule Egypt. She explained why Egypt needed strong leadership. Caesar listened carefully. He saw that Cleopatra was not ordinary. She was young, but she understood power. She was in danger, but she did not act weak. She needed Caesar, but she did not lose her dignity. This meeting changed history. Caesar decided to support Cleopatra. With Caesar's help, Cleopatra returned to power. She became queen again. But she also understood something very important. Her future was now connected to Rome. And Rome was never simple. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. After Cleopatra returned to the throne, her relationship with Julius Caesar became one of the most famous relationships in history. Some people remember it as a love story. Some people remember it as a political alliance. In truth, it was probably both. Cleopatra admired Caesar's strength and experience. Caesar admired Cleopatra's intelligence and confidence. But both of them were also leaders. They understood that Egypt and Rome needed each other. Egypt had grain, wealth, and an important position near the sea. Rome had military power and political influence. Cleopatra wanted to protect Egypt. Caesar wanted stability and influence in Egypt. Together, they created a powerful connection. For a time, Cleopatra felt hopeful. She had survived danger. She had returned to the throne. She had gained the support of one of the strongest men in the world. Later, Cleopatra had a son. His name was Caesarion. To Cleopatra, her son was not only her child. He was part of Egypt's future. She loved him as a mother, but she also knew that his identity could become politically important. Cleopatra wanted a strong future for her son. She wanted a strong future for Egypt. Later, Cleopatra traveled to Rome. Rome was very different from Alexandria. Alexandria was bright, open, and close to the sea. Rome was powerful, serious, and full of political tension. People watched Cleopatra carefully. Some Romans respected her. Some did not trust her. Some were curious. Some were jealous. Some believed she had too much influence over Caesar. Cleopatra understood that she was not fully accepted there. She was a foreign queen in the center of Roman power. People whispered about her. They said she was ambitious. They said she was dangerous. They said she wanted too much. Cleopatra had heard whispers before. She knew that powerful women were often judged harshly. But she stayed calm. She watched Rome. She listened. She learned. Then suddenly, everything changed. Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome. This was a dangerous political event that shocked the Roman world. For Cleopatra, it was also a personal and political disaster. Caesar had protected her position. Now he was gone. Cleopatra understood that Rome was no longer safe for her. She returned to Egypt with Caesar Ion. She returned as a queen, a mother, and a ruler who had learned another painful lesson. Powerful friends can protect you for a time. But no protection lasts forever. The queen returns to Egypt. When Cleopatra returned to Egypt, she focused on her kingdom. She knew she had to be strong. Rome was unstable. Powerful Roman men were fighting for control. Caesar's death had created new conflict. Cleopatra could not control Rome. But she could control how she ruled Egypt. She worked to make her kingdom stable. She managed trade. She supported temples. She worked with officials. She protected important resources. She listened to reports from across the country. The Nile River was still the heart of Egypt. Farmers depended on it. Families depended on it. The economy depended on it. If the river gave good harvests, people had food. If the harvests were bad, people suffered. Cleopatra understood that a ruler's duty was not only to appear powerful. A ruler had to care about the daily life of the people. Food mattered. Taxes mattered. Trade mattered. Security mattered. Trust mattered. At night, when the palace became quiet, Cleopatra sometimes walked alone. She looked towards the sea. She thought about her father. She thought about Caesar. She thought about her son. She thought about the future. Could Egypt remain free? Could she protect her people? Could she protect Caesar Ion? She had already survived exile. She had already returned to the throne. But she knew more storms were coming. And soon, another Roman leader would enter her life. His name was Mark Antony. Mark Antony. Mark Antony was one of the most powerful men in Rome after Caesar's death. He was a soldier, a leader, and a man with great influence. He had fought beside Caesar. Many soldiers respected him. He was brave, emotional, confident, and sometimes careless. Unlike Octavian, who was calm and careful, Antony was dramatic and passionate. Rome was now divided between powerful men. Antony controlled important parts of the Eastern Roman world. He needed money, support, and political allies. Egypt was rich. Cleopatra was powerful. So Antony called Cleopatra to meet him. Some rulers might have arrived quietly. Some might have acted afraid. But Cleopatra understood the power of presentation. She knew that leaders must sometimes create a strong image. She did not want Antony to see her as weak. She wanted him to see her as a queen. So she traveled in royal style. Her boat was beautiful. It was decorated with rich colors. Music played. Servants moved carefully. People came to watch. This was not only decoration. It was strategy. Cleopatra was sending a message. I am not a servant of Rome. I am the Queen of Egypt. When Antony saw her, he was impressed. Cleopatra spoke with confidence. She listened carefully. She understood his needs. She showed intelligence, charm, and political skill. Antony expected a meeting. But Cleopatra gave him an experience he would never forget. Their relationship became stronger. At first, it was political. Then it became personal. They became one of the most famous couples in history. But their relationship was also dangerous. Because when love and power mix, the result can change the world. Love and politics. Cleopatra and Mark Antony spent time together in Alexandria. Antony enjoyed the city. He enjoyed the music, the conversations, the culture, and the beauty of Egypt. Cleopatra showed him a world different from Rome. In Alexandria, life was full of color. There were libraries, temples, markets, sea winds, and evening lights. But behind the beauty, politics never disappeared. Cleopatra needed Antony's support. Antony needed Cleopatra's wealth and influence. Together, they could become very powerful. They had children together. Cleopatra hoped her children would have a strong future. She wanted Egypt to remain important. She wanted her family to survive in a dangerous world. But Rome was watching. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, was becoming more powerful in Rome. Octavian was patient. He was not as emotional as Antony. He was careful with words. He understood propaganda. Propaganda means using information, stories, or messages to influence people. Octavian began to tell Romans that Antony was forgetting Rome. He said Antony was too close to Cleopatra. He said Cleopatra was dangerous. He said she wanted too much power. Many Romans believed him. This was a serious problem. Cleopatra was far away in Egypt, but her image was being attacked in Rome. People who had never met her began to fear her. This is another lesson from history. Sometimes, people do not fight only with weapons. They fight with stories. They fight by changing what others believe. Octavian was very good at this. He turned Cleopatra into a symbol of danger. He made Antony look weak. He made himself look like the defender of Rome. Cleopatra understood that the situation was becoming dangerous. But she also knew that there was no easy choice. If she left Antony, Egypt might stand alone. If she supported Antony, Egypt might become Rome's enemy. Every path had risk. A leader often has to choose between difficult options. Cleopatra chose to stand with Antony. And this choice led them towards war. The road to conflict. War does not begin suddenly. It begins with tension. It begins with arguments. It begins with distrust. It begins when people stop believing in peace. Between Antony and Octavian, trust disappeared. Both men wanted power. Both men believed the other was dangerous. Cleopatra stood beside Antony. She gave support from Egypt. She gave money, ships, and resources. Some people in Antony's camp respected her. Others did not. Some Roman soldiers did not like the idea of a foreign queen having influence. Some officers believed Antony was listening too much to Cleopatra. Some people blamed Cleopatra for everything, even when the truth was more complicated. This was unfair, but politics is often unfair. Cleopatra carried a heavy burden. If Antony won, Egypt might be protected. If Antony lost, Egypt would be in danger. Finally, the conflict reached a turning point. The great battle would happen near Actium. It was a naval battle, a battle at sea. The forces of Antony and Cleopatra faced the forces of Octavian. The future of Egypt and Rome was about to change. For YouTube safety and English learning, we will not describe the battle in a graphic way. We will focus on the historical meaning. At Actium, Antony and Cleopatra's side faced serious problems. There was confusion. There was pressure. Some soldiers were unsure. Octavian's side was more organized. The battle ended badly for Antony and Cleopatra. They lost. This defeat changed everything. After Actium, Octavian became the stronger leader. Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt. But now, their position was weak. The dream of challenging Octavian was almost over. Alexandria was still beautiful. The sea was still blue. The palace still stood. But the future felt heavy. Octavian was coming. The last days of a kingdom. After the defeat at Actium, Cleopatra tried to protect what remained. She was not thinking only about herself. She was thinking about Egypt. She was thinking about her children. She was thinking about the future of her people. She sent messages. She considered negotiations. She tried to understand what Octavian wanted. But Octavian wanted complete victory. He wanted control of Egypt. He wanted Antony defeated politically. He wanted Cleopatra under Roman control. Cleopatra knew this. For many years, she had lived with danger. She had lost her throne and returned. She had met Caesar. She had ruled Egypt. She had stood beside Antony. She had faced Rome's power. But now, she faced the hardest moment of her life. Antony was deeply affected by defeat. He was no longer the confident leader he had once been. He felt that his honor and power were gone. The final days in Alexandria were full of sadness, fear, and uncertainty. Antony died during this time. We will not focus on the details. This is an English learning story, so we will speak about it respectfully and simply. His death was a tragic moment for Cleopatra. She had lost a partner, an ally, and a man who had shared her dream of power. Soon after, Octavian took control of Alexandria. Egypt could not resist anymore. The great kingdom was falling. Cleopatra met Octavian. She tried to speak with dignity. She tried to protect her children. She tried to understand if there was any safe future left. But she knew the truth. Her time as queen was ending. Ancient Egypt was about to become part of Roman power. Cleopatra's final decision. Cleopatra's final days have become famous in history. Many ancient stories say different things about her death. Some stories mention a snake. Some historians are not completely sure what happened. In this video, we will not focus on the details of her death. We will focus on the meaning of her life. Cleopatra did not want to be shown as a prisoner in Rome. She had lived as a queen. She wanted to be remembered with dignity. Her final decision was tragic. It marked the end of her life and the end of Egypt's independence. Cleopatra died in 30 BCE. After her death, Egypt became part of the Roman world. Octavian became more powerful than ever. Later, he became known as Augustus, the first Roman emperor. This was not only the end of Cleopatra. It was the end of an age. For thousands of years, Egypt had been a land of pharaohs, temples, pyramids, gods, queens, kings, and ancient wisdom. Now, that old world had changed forever. Rome had won. Egypt had fallen. But Cleopatra's name did not disappear. Her kingdom ended. Her life ended. But her story continued. People remembered her. Writers wrote about her. Artists painted her. Historians studied her. Films and books told her story again and again. Why? Because Cleopatra was not an ordinary queen. She was intelligent. She was ambitious. She was brave. She was political. She was emotional. She was human. She lived in a world controlled mostly by powerful men, but she made herself impossible to ignore. That is why we still speak her name today. More than beauty. Many people talk about Cleopatra's beauty. But beauty alone cannot explain her power. Beauty does not rule a country. Beauty does not speak many languages. Beauty does not negotiate with Roman leaders. Beauty does not survive palace danger. Beauty does not protect a kingdom for years. Cleopatra's real power was her mind. She knew how to speak. She knew how to listen. She knew how to read people. She knew how to create an image. She knew how to use timing. She knew how to build alliances. She understood that leadership is not only about force. Leadership is also about intelligence. Some people loved her. Some people feared her. Some people misunderstood her. Some people used her name for their own political purposes. But no one ignored her. That is one reason she became a legend. Cleopatra teaches us that people are often more complicated than the stories told about them. If we only say, "She was beautiful," we miss the truth. She was also educated. She was also strategic. She was also responsible for a kingdom. She was also a mother. She was also a woman under enormous pressure. She made mistakes, yes. Every leader makes mistakes. But she also showed courage in a time of danger. She tried to protect Egypt when Rome was becoming stronger and stronger. This is why her story is powerful. Leadership lessons from Cleopatra. Now, let us think about the lessons from Cleopatra's life. The first lesson is this: knowledge is power. Cleopatra studied languages, history, politics, and culture. She did not depend only on her royal name. She developed her mind. For English learners, this is also important. Every new word you learn gives you more power. Every sentence you practice gives you more confidence. Every story you listen to helps your brain understand English naturally. The second lesson is this: confidence matters. Cleopatra lost her throne, but she did not stop. She returned with a plan. She spoke to powerful people with courage. In life, you may fail. You may lose something. You may feel afraid. But failure does not have to be the end. Sometimes, failure is the beginning of a stronger version of you. The third lesson is this: choose your allies carefully. Cleopatra worked with Caesar and Antony because she wanted to protect Egypt. But powerful alliances can also bring danger. In your own life, the people around you matter. Good people can help you grow. Wrong people can bring problems. Choose carefully. The fourth lesson is this: communication is powerful. Cleopatra knew how to speak. She knew how to present herself. She understood the power of words, image, and confidence. For English learners, communication is also your key. You do not need perfect English to communicate. You need clear English. You need confidence. You need practice. The fifth lesson is this: legacy is not only about winning. Cleopatra lost her final political battle. But her story survived for more than 2,000 years. People still remember her. People still learn from her. Sometimes, a person's legacy is not about winning every fight. It is about standing with courage during difficult times. English vocabulary practice. Now, let us practice useful vocabulary from the story. Listen and repeat. The first word is ambition. Ambition means a strong desire to achieve something. Cleopatra had great ambition. Sentence. Her ambition helped her become a powerful queen. Repeat. Ambition. Her ambition helped her become a powerful queen. The second word is leadership. Leadership means the ability to guide people. Cleopatra showed leadership during difficult times. Sentence. Good leadership is important when people feel afraid. Repeat. Leadership. Good leadership is important when people feel afraid. The third word is strategy. Strategy means a careful plan. Cleopatra used strategy to return to power. Sentence. A good strategy can change a difficult situation. Repeat. Strategy. A good strategy can change a difficult situation. The fourth word is alliance. An alliance is a relationship between people or countries who agree to help each other. Cleopatra made alliances with powerful Roman leaders. Sentence. The alliance helped Egypt for a time. Repeat. Alliance. The alliance helped Egypt for a time. The fifth word is dignity. Dignity means self-respect and calm honor. Cleopatra wanted to keep her dignity. Sentence. She faced the end with dignity. Repeat. Dignity. She faced the end with dignity. The sixth word is a legacy. Legacy means what someone leaves behind after they are gone. Cleopatra's legacy is still remembered today. Sentence. Her legacy continues through history. Repeat. Legacy. Her legacy continues through history. The seventh word is conflict. Conflict means a serious disagreement or struggle. Rome had many political conflicts. Sentence. The conflict between Antony and Octavian changed history. Repeat. Conflict. The conflict between Antony and Octavian changed history. The eighth word is independence. Independence means freedom from control by another country or power. Cleopatra wanted to protect Egypt's independence. Sentence. Egypt lost its independence after Cleopatra's death. Repeat. Independence. Egypt lost its independence after Cleopatra's death. Very good. Now repeat all the words. Ambition. Leadership. Strategy. Alliance. Dignity. Legacy. Conflict. Independence. Excellent. Chapter 14, Speaking Practice. Now, let us practice speaking. Listen and repeat each sentence. Cleopatra was a powerful queen. She was born in Alexandria. Alexandria was a great city of learning. Cleopatra loved knowledge. She studied languages and politics. She became queen at a young age. Her life was not easy. She lost her throne. But she did not give up. She made a plan to return. She met Julius Caesar. Caesar helped her regain power. Cleopatra wanted to protect Egypt. She later met Mark Antony. Their relationship became famous. But Rome became more dangerous. Octavian became her enemy. The Battle of Actium changed history. Cleopatra and Antony lost power. Egypt became part of Rome. Cleopatra's life ended tragically. But her story did not disappear. She was more than beautiful. She was intelligent and brave. She was a leader. She was a mother. She was a queen. Her story teaches us about courage. Her story teaches us about power. Her story teaches us about communication. Her story teaches us about legacy. Very good. Now listen to these longer sentences. Cleopatra lived during a dangerous time in history. She had to make difficult choices to protect her country. She used her intelligence to speak with powerful leaders. She understood that leadership needed courage, knowledge, and strategy. Although her kingdom fell, her name remained alive in history. Excellent work. Listening comprehension questions. Now, let us check your understanding. Question 1. Where did Cleopatra grow up? A. Rome. B. Alexandria. C. Athens. D. Paris. The answer is B. Cleopatra grew up in Alexandria. Question 2. What made Cleopatra powerful? A. Only beauty. B. Only money. C. Intelligence, education, and leadership. D. The silence. The answer is C. Cleopatra was powerful because of her intelligence, education, and leadership. Question 3. Who helped Cleopatra return to power? A. Julius Caesar. B. Octavian. C. A Greek teacher. D. A sailor. The answer is A. Julius Caesar helped Cleopatra return to power. Question 4. Who became Cleopatra's famous Roman partner after Caesar? A. Mark Antony. B. Augustus. C. Pompey. D. Nero. The answer is A. Mark Antony became Cleopatra's famous Roman partner. Question 5. What battle changed the future of Egypt? A. The Battle of London. B. The Battle of Actium. C. The Battle of Alexandria Market. D. The Battle of the Nile School. The answer is B. The Battle of Actium changed the future of Egypt. Question 6. What happened after Cleopatra's death? A. Egypt became stronger than Rome. B. Egypt became part of Roman power. C. Cleopatra returned to the throne. D. Rome disappeared. The answer is B. Egypt became part of Roman power. Question 7. What is one lesson from Cleopatra's story? A. Never learn. B. Knowledge is power. C. Leaders should never listen. D. History is not useful. The answer is B. Knowledge is power. Well done. Final reflection. Cleopatra's story is not simple. It is full of power, love, politics, courage, mistakes, and tragedy. She was born into a royal family, but her life was never easy. She had to fight for her throne. She had to understand dangerous people. She had to protect a kingdom in a time when Rome was becoming stronger every year. Some people remember her as a beautiful queen. But that is only one small part of her story. She was much more than that. She was a speaker of languages. She was a political thinker. She was a ruler. She was a mother. She was a woman who refused to disappear. Her story also reminds us that history is often written by powerful people. The winners tell the story. The losers are often judged. But when we look carefully, we can see a deeper truth. Cleopatra was not perfect. No leader is perfect. But she was courageous. She was intelligent. She was determined. She tried to protect her country during one of the most difficult moments in ancient history. And even though Egypt fell, Cleopatra became immortal in memory. Her name crossed centuries. Her story traveled through books, paintings, plays, films, and classrooms. And today, her story helps us learn English. That is the power of storytelling. Stories help us remember words. Stories help us understand grammar naturally. Stories help us feel emotion in English. Stories help us learn about people, history, and life. So listen to this story again. Repeat the sentences. Write down new words. Practice speaking slowly and clearly. And remember the lessons from Cleopatra. Learn every day. Speak with confidence. Choose your friends and allies carefully. Protect your dignity. And never forget the power of knowledge. Thank you for listening to this English speaking practice story. This was The Untold Story of Cleopatra, the most powerful queen in history. See you in the next English story.